Okay. First and foremost, how do you access Passport? Now, all of you should have received the access to Passport. If you did not receive it at this point in time, you can let me know via email, and I will create a user access for you. One of the good things about Passport database is that we do not limit the number of users. So you can have access if you don't have it, as long as your email domain is MOC or DITP or TPSO. Yes, you can have access. Now, one more important thing is, how do you enter the home page? This is your home page for Passport. How do you enter it? After this training, I will share with all of you the link to access it. But if you don't know the link now, another way is you type on Google Euromonitor login. And then once you type the first link that you see, Euromonitor login, you can click on it and it will bring you to the login page where you can insert your username, which is your email, and then your password, and then you click on next, and it will bring you into the home page that you are seeing here right now. Before I go into all the details of the database, I also want to show you some things from the home page that are relevant to you. Number one, from the top right, you will see the icon of a user. You can click on it and you will actually be able to see what you have downloaded, what you have saved as a content. So every time that you download something, it will be saved there. So if next time you want to find it again, you can do that just by clicking onto the icon and then going to My Download. So you don't need to search for it again. Then one more thing, this is the update schedule. So here on top, you can click on it. And if you're wondering, oh, I already read some of the reports for the industry that I look for, but I want to know when the new update will come. If you click on update schedule, it will show you exactly when each industry has been updated last time and when it will be updated next, and until which year we will update the forecasts, some until 2028, 2029, and so on. So you have all the list of updates here, and it's on update schedule. One more thing about the homepage, you have a help button here on top. And then if you click on it, you will be able to see a lot of video tutorials. These videos are in English, but they teach you how to use statistics, how to use dashboards, how to export data, how to download data. All of these are covered in very short, like 2 minutes videos here. So make use of this, okay? Now we go back to the home page where we can start digging for our data. Now, from the homepage, what you should see is 2 big boxes and one search bar. From the search bar, you can search based on keywords that you care about. For example, if I want to look at tea, I want to do a research and I look at tea in China, for example, here there are some reports that are suggested to me. There are some statistics. If I want tea in Germany, for example, then it will give me reports that we have in Germany. We give me some dashboards about hot drinks. It will give me some statistics. And then if I already know what I want to look for, I can click on any of these. This is the keyword search. If you don't really know exactly which keyword to use, it's okay. You can search from the tree of information. This is the most important part of today's training. To search for data, you click on search all categories, click here, click on industries, and then click on go. This one will bring you to the tree of all information that you have access to. And I'm pleased to tell you that MOC has access to all industries in our database. So you will see here under all industries, there's appliance and electronics, drinks, food and nutrition, health and beauty, home products, luxury and fashion, nicotine, we have services, B2B, etc. Under each of them, there's a plus, means that you can expand the category to see the subcategories and so on. For today's training, I will just use one example, but when I show you one example, just bear in mind that every industry is going to be researched in the same way as that I show you for one specific industry example. So you just need to remember how to go about finding the data in one category, and all the other categories the same way is used to find the data. So for the sake of today's example, I'm gonna select hot drinks. So I open that and I click on hot drinks. I take coffee, tea, other hot drinks. If I don't want to go into the subcategories, I just keep it top level. It's okay. Then once I'm done, I can click on select geographies to see in which countries I want to find out information for coffee, tea, and other hot drinks. And for example, I want to look at Thailand, of course, but I also may want to look, so I take Thailand. I want to look maybe at Indonesia as well. Maybe I can also take other countries outside of APAC, for example, Australia. Then I also want to benchmark against, for example, the UK or I don't know, Germany again. And then once I have selected the countries that I want to compare this data, I can click on search. Bear in mind, you could select all the countries that you want. And then it brings me to a page where I have 3 pillars of information. One is statistics, one is analysis, one is dashboard. Let me explain what these 3 are. Statistics, just like the word says, means data, means numbers. Is like imagine table with numbers. Okay, these are statistics. Analysis is when our researchers, they research the data, they also researched it the previous year and the year before, so they see the evolution of the industry across years. And so they write trends, they write what are market opportunities, they write information that they find out about that industry in that specific market. So analysis is always written content, like country reports, for example. But not just country reports, we also have strategic briefings, etc. So you have a lot of country reports for different categories, like hot drinks, tea, coffee, etc., etc. And then finally, dashboards. Dashboards are visual interactive maps where you can, at a very quick glance, you can compare different countries very easily, and you can deep dive into a country. I'm going to show them all of you. I'm going to show them all to you soon. So we start from statistics. And by the way, here on top, it reminds you what you search for, what categories you search and what geographies. If you are not happy, you want to change something, you can always click on modify search, and it will ask you to, it will bring you to a page where you can modify it. Okay. But for now, within statistics, it doesn't really matter what you click, whether market sizes, company shares, brand shares. These are all data points you have inside. You can just click on the first one, view full data set. And then once you are inside, you can still change the selection once inside. So you just click on the first one, and then it brings you inside. So like I said, this is the statistics page. So what are we looking at? You see here, there are all the geographies that we chose. Okay. Here there are all the categories that we chose. For example, if I want to isolate tea only, I want to focus on tea only and make a comparison between countries, I just click on tea and filter only tea. Now, this is what kind of data type do I have? This is retail value, RSP, means sales in terms of monetary value, how much sales have been made in local currency. You have Indonesian rupiah, billion, Thailand baht, billion, Australian dollar, euros, and Great Britain pound, million. If I want to cross-compare countries, I can do that. And how do I do that? Is I convert data on top, and then I can select a currency across all countries. For example, USD or Euro or Great Britain pound. It doesn't matter. You can pick USD, and then it will bring you into the same page, but every currency will be converted to USD. Now I can cross compare the different countries, of course. Now, one more thing is you can also look at different data types. So now what you're looking at is retail value. So how much sales have been made through retail for tea. But if I want to look at, for example, how much sales have been made in terms of volume, so how many kilograms of tea have been made through retail, I can also look at that. I can also look at food service. So in restaurants, how much tea in terms of volume is being sold in restaurants. You can click on that as well. Food service cups volume, how many cups have been sold in restaurants, hotels, catering. This is all food service. You can click on that as well. So you can select different data types, and then you can click on apply, and it will show you those data types that you have selected, for example. And then, sorry, I just want to refilter for tea. You see, for example, I want to look at, okay, all the countries. We have in Indonesia, you have the retail volume in tons, or you have also the food service volume in tons. You have the retail value, so the sales in USD million. And the same goes for Thailand. If I don't want tons, but I want other measure, I can click on convert data, and then I go into unit multiplier, and I can look at thousands, for example. And then it will give me kilograms, thousands, for example, which is tons. But you can play around with the data. I will not go into it so much because this is something you can look through. But another thing you can play around with is with the time frame. By default, Passport always shows you the latest historical year, which is 2023, because 2024 is still ongoing. So the latest finished year is 2023, and it also shows you the 5 years before. But if you want to change, you can. You can go all the way back to 2009 if you want, and you can go all the way forward to 2028. 2028 is the furthest one. And for example, if I want to change the selection, I start from 2023, and I want to go all the way until 2028. And then I click on apply, it will give me the forecasts for these categories for the next 5 years. Again, here, let me just isolate retail value, so the sales in retail for tea. And these are the forecasts on how we see countries growing in the next 5 years. Something also that is interesting here to check is to go into convert data and look at growth. Because one thing is understanding how much is the absolute value of sales of tea in a specific country in the next 5 years. But I want to know which one has the fastest growing rate. So I'm going to select, for example, year-on-year growth for these points for these countries. And then I looked at in the next year, so between 2023 and this year, we see which one is the fastest growing. And then all of that for each year. One more data point you can look at is, for example, if I look at growth and I want to look at period growth. So in the next 5 years, who's the one who's going to grow the fastest? And then it will give me this information here. You see 2023 to 2028, the one that is going to grow the fastest is actually Thailand in tea, in terms of sales of tea. In terms of CAGR, compounded annual growth rate, as well, Thailand and Indonesia are the fastest growing among the 5 countries that we have selected that we wanted to compare. Yes. I'm sorry, I'm gonna accept some more users. Hold on. Okay, everybody is inside. I will accept when I see new ones. Yeah, as they will appear here on the screen, and then I accept. Yeah. Apologies. Okay, so there's one user coming in. I accept. Okay. Okay, so with that being said, you see here on the left, there are a lot of colored buttons. What are these colored buttons? And I'm going to show you them. The brown one is company shares. So for example, for Indonesia, okay, I understand that Indonesia in the next 5 years sales are going to grow by 24%, almost 23.9%. But who are the biggest brands? Who are the biggest companies of retailing tea in Indonesia? And also this green one is through which distribution channels, through which retail channels do they sell tea? All this information is available here. And also which products contain tea in Indonesia. And also another one here is what are related industry, what is the market size of related industries in Indonesia. And finally, here we also can access directly from here the analysis part, which is the country report. But this one I will show you later. So for example, if I go into Indonesia and I click on company shares, I want to see who currently are the biggest companies retailing tea in Indonesia. It gives me a list of companies. Then I can have a ranking from 2023. And we see the Unilever, Sina, Tangmas, etc. But I also want to look at brand shares, not just company, but I want to see which brand, because one company may carry more than one brand. So it's important for me to look at brands as well. So I'm going to, I clicked on here on change stats type, I click on brand. So I'm going to select again tea. And I'm going to select for now Indonesia only. And you will see here that you have the brands. They are all in order by the latest available year, historical year, which is 2023. You have the brand, and then you also have who is the company that owns that brand. GBO means global brand owner. So globally, who is the company that owns that brand? Sometimes in some countries, you will have a local brand owner, which may be different. You can change that as well if you want to look at who is the local brand owner in Indonesia for that. If it's not Unilever, it may be someone else. And then you can do that by clicking on to change data type, to convert data. On change share types. And then you look at local owner. But for the case of this example, I just stick to global brand owners just to share with you what is it. And then you will see what are the top brands and to which companies do they belong to. Okay. Now, if I want to look at, for example, another data point is retail channels. So the tea in Indonesia, we understood how much is being sold, how much is it going to be sold in the next 5 years. We have our forecasts. We know who are the biggest brands selling this. But I want to know through which channels. Is it being sold online, offline? Is it being sold, if it's offline, is it through supermarkets? Is it grocery retailers? I don't know. I need to find out. So I click on change stats type. I click on retail channels, and it will bring me here to retail channels. Again, I want to look at hot drinks where they sell. In this case, I select still only Indonesia, so I don't have a too long of a list. And hot drinks are being sold offline for 97.7%. So basically online, there's very little hot drinks being sold. And then offline, which are the retail channels through which they are sold? Grocery retailers, okay, which one? Convenience retail, or convenience retail, for example, stands at 36% versus supermarkets 21% versus hypermarkets almost 9%. And then you have a 31% of small local grocers. What does that mean? And then you have, of course, e-commerce is only 2.3%. What does that mean for the hot drinks retail sales in Indonesia? Is that if I need to advise a Thai company to export tea in Indonesia and advise them on which distribution channels to focus primarily on, what I see here is that convenience stores and supermarkets are the two main channels in which they are bought. But there's also a vast share of small local grocers. Small local grocers might present a challenge because they are very scattered out, and sometimes they are even hard to find, how to locate on through online information. So this is information that government agencies use to advise SMEs, for example. Now, we have looked at brand shares, company shares, distribution channels, and of course, in the beginning, we looked at market sizes, right? So this is the statistics part. Like I said, another thing we can look at is products by ingredient or related market size. I'm not going to go so deep into everything. So which products contain the ingredients that we selected? And then you're going to look at them. And then market sizes. What other FMCG categories similar to hot drinks in these countries compare against hot drinks? In terms of sales, you want to know whether hot drinks is doing better or worse than soft drinks or than packaged food, etc. So it's all here. You can look at it by yourself, because now I want to go back to search results, because you remember I was sharing with you there are 3 pillars: statistics, analysis, and dashboards. And we have looked at statistics. Now we're going to look at analysis, for example. So in analysis, what I was saying earlier is that we have country reports. We have written information by our analysts. And you can select, of course, we selected geographies. You can look for more geographies if you want to change. But for the case of this particular example, I can look at the country report of hot drinks in Germany, for example, or tea or coffee in Germany, other hot drinks, or in the UK, or in Indonesia, or in Thailand, etc. So let me just take the first one. Hot drinks in Germany. What kind of data do you find inside these market reports? By the way, every report or every statistics is fully downloadable. So you can have access to it by downloading it, not just by looking at it on the screen, in case you want to have, for example, the PDF version. And I will show you that soon for the statistics as well. But here we are looking at the analysis part. So the analysis, by the way, here, if you click on download, you can decide to download the whole report or just some specific chapters. If you download all, it's downloaded here. It says in PDF. Another thing you can download is the Excel sheet. So to build these reports, we vet through a lot of numbers. And if you want to have the numbers, the data sheet, you can have it. You can have for the whole report, or you can have for specific categories like coffee, tea, other hot drinks. And then once you have selected, you click on download data, and it will be downloaded into your device. Let's go back to analysis now. For hot drinks in Germany, for example, we looked at market sizes. Earlier in the example, we looked at Indonesia. Here is Germany. The historical, the latest available historical year is highlighted here, which is 2023. And then the forecast, the growth forecast, in this case is Euromillion. Then we also have insights like the big picture of the whole hot drinks industry in Germany in 2023. What are key trends that we see in the consumption of hot drinks in Germany? What is the competitive landscape looking like? What are the developments in the retail? And within hot drinks, what sort of categories are selling the most? Is it coffee? And if it's coffee, is it fresh coffee or instant coffee? I would say in Germany, coffee is the biggest hot drink, biggest selling hot drink. And within coffee is mostly fresh coffee instead of instant coffee. Then among tea, Germans prefer, in Germany, they prefer fruit and herbal tea as opposed to black tea and green tea and instant tea or other tea. And then there are other hot drinks. Imagine like Milo, other flavor powder hot drinks. And there are also plant-based hot drinks, and you can see how much they stack. This is what you're seeing here. The bar is market size, but here on the side, you can look at current year growth, which is the blue ball. Then you can see the compounded annual growth rate in the past 5 years is the green bar, and the compounded annual growth rate for the next 5 years is the blue bar. So, for example, I will show you that pretty much all hot drinks category has been growing at a higher rate in the past 5 years than it is growing in the next 5 years So there's going to be a slower growth, but it's still going to be a growth in the next 5 years, according to our analysis. Now, on the left, you see insights also as well as food service versus retail. How do they stack against each other? What do we see as the outlook of hot drinks in Germany? What's next for them? And then we have we put sources that we consulted in order to come up with this data. And also here, like you saw earlier, this is in a more visual way. Who are the biggest, sorry, I add more users. Who are the biggest companies and who are the biggest brands in Germany when it comes to hot drinks? Yeah. And as you can see here, for example, in Germany, an insight you can derive here is that hot drinks, for hot drinks, the market is pretty much fragmented in terms of brands. So there isn't one massively big brand that dominates the market, but there are a lot of smaller brands. And whenever you see others or other private label that are high, it means that the market is very fragmented. So what kind of brands fall under others? In our analysis, any brand that occupies less than 0.1% of market share is merged under others. Okay, any brand that goes above 0.1% market share, then we will track it individually. So you have a lot of very, very, very tiny brands in Germany, and also quite a few private label brands in Germany as well. So the market for hot drinks in Germany is very fragmented. There isn't one key player that you need to beat. So if you need to, this means two things, good news and bad news. Good news if you're advising a Thai company to export to Germany, export it to Germany. The good news is that you don't have a giant that you need to fight against. But the bad news is it's very fragmented, and possibly this fragmentation means that it's very hard to gain a bigger market share in the market. Now, of course, this is just one piece of the puzzle. There are many things to consider in advising export for a specific Thai company product. But this is one of the inputs you want to see. Another input we saw earlier is through which channels are sales being made, for example. Now, this is the analysis part, and we are left with one last part, which is the dashboards, right? So I click on back to results, and I'm going to go into the dashboard part. So in dashboard, I will click on hot drinks. You see here there is a forecast model. I'm not going to go into it because MOC doesn't have access to this, but I will click into hot drinks. This dashboard that I'm showing you, you have access to it. So I want you to leverage it as much as you can. Now, what does a dashboard look like? And by the way, here you can print it out. You can save it as PDF. So everything you see here is downloadable. Okay. Now, what am I looking at? This map, the darker the blue means the higher the market size. Market size means the higher the sales. For which category? Hot drinks is written here on top. Okay. So of course you may think the bigger a country is, the higher the market size, right? For example, in India there are 1.5 billion people. Of course, the market size will be higher than, for example, in Kazakhstan, where there is only about 50 million people, or is bigger than Turkey, you know. However, something you may also want to consider, instead of market size as a whole, you want to look at per capita consumption. Now the picture changes drastically. So now we are seeing how much people spend every year per person in each country. And you see globally, the average is $22.20 US dollars in 2023. But it changes drastically between countries. For example, in Australia, they spend on average almost $77 a year on hot drinks per capita. And then in India, that was a huge market size. Actually, per capita is not that high. It's only almost $4 a year per person, which is very, very little for hot drinks. Another thing you want to look at is forecast growth. So when it comes to hot drinks, which countries are forecasted to grow the most and which are forecasted to grow less or even to decrease? And whatever you see to be orange or red means that they are below zero, so they are going to decrease. We forecast a decrease in consumption of hot drinks. And for example, we are looking at South Korea, Japan, Myanmar, Scandinavian countries like Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. They're all growing. They're all gonna decrease in the next 5 years in consumption of hot drinks. And here you have a regional comparison. Globally, the whole world, on average, is gonna grow in the next 5 years a 2.1% compounded annual growth rate. But it will be vastly driven by South America and Middle East. South America and Middle East are the two regions where the growth is gonna be the highest for hot drinks. And this is another piece of information you want to consider when advising companies, is which regions are forecasted to grow the most in terms of consumption. And then you also want to see compared to how much is the market size and what's the forecast growth, you will see how much white space is there for those specific countries. By the way, if you want to dive deeper and you don't want to just know hot drinks, but you want to look at specific subcategories like coffee or tea or other hot drinks, or within coffee, you can look at different things. It's all here. You can click on it and then you can click on go and it will change based on coffee. Okay, I don't do it now because this is just an example. Another thing that I want to show you, actually two more things. One is, if I want to know which one is the country that is forecasted to grow the most, how do I do? Do I need to hover on each of the countries? No. You just need to click on bar chart and it will line up all the countries by forecast growth. And we see on top is Nigeria, Tunisia, Pakistan, Jordan, Qatar, India. So a lot of Middle East, Central Asian countries are gonna be growing in terms of consumption of hot drinks. By the way, you can also change the currency. If you don't want USD, you want pounds or euro, you can just click on it. Yes, so I go back to my map view. And one more thing I want to show you is, for example, Brazil is forecasted to grow a lot. I click on it, and then I can explore in detail. And if I click on explore in detail, I will see the market size, I will see the per capita consumption, the forecast growth, and I will also see how Brazil stacks in terms of growth of consumption year on year versus Latin America. So the black line is Brazil. So Brazil is outperforming the whole of Latin America in terms of consumption of hot drinks in the next 5 years and compared to the world. Now, one more thing I want to do is, okay, but from here I want to actually deep dive into the market size. I want to look at company shares, brand shares. How do I go back there? Here there is this icon, right? You see a table icon. You can click on it and it will bring you into the statistics page that we saw earlier. And so once you have that, then you can look at, you see Brazil hot drinks, coffee, tea, other hot drinks, and then you can look at brand shares, company shares, etc., etc. By the way, if you want to download the statistics, so we have closed the circle on how to download statistics, analysis, and also dashboard. You can click on this download, and it will download into Excel in your own device. I will pause here for any questions, and then if after we have answered some of the questions, I will show you just one more thing, and then I have a little surprise for you. So, are there any questions so far based on what you saw? Feel free to unmute and share.
มีคำถามถามได้นะครับถามเป็นภาษาไทยก็ได้นะครับจะแชทหรือว่าจะเป็นการพูดคุยกลับมาก็ได้นะครับผมถ้าเป็นภาษาไทยจะพยายามช่วยแปลให้นะครับ
Let me look at the chat. That's right. No, it's good. Okay, I see a question. Is there from Ramita? Is there the supply side of any product in dashboard? That's a very good question, and I can show you. We do have in Passport the supply side, but it's not in dashboard. You're gonna have to look at it into statistics. So what I do is here, I go into industries, for example, I click on Go. Again, remember this, to access the tree of information, always in that box. Yes, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. So sorry about that. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. Yes, so you remember I'm in the tree of information. The supply side is actually under commodities, under economies. However, I need to check, or you guys can check in your own portal to see if you have. I think TPSO MOC doesn't have access to this, but this is just for the sake of answering the question. I can show you. This is all the upstream data, supply side. For example, in terms of agriculture, we have production of crops. What crops? Apples, artichokes, bananas, etc., etc., etc. So all the way until production of tea. So this information, then I click on it, I go into geographies, I can click on Germany or Indonesia, and it gives me the production of tea for that specific country. Yes, so this is to answer your question, but I think it's not part of your subscription. But yeah, let me see if there are more questions on this. In which file formats can we export the table? You can export the table in Excel. For the reports instead, you will be able to export the whole report in a PDF, and the table, the numbers that are included in the report, you can also export them in Excel. Excel is editable, so that means that you can change, you can manipulate the data, you can make your own calculations on this. Any more questions? By the way, if you have any more questions after this session, feel free to send me an email or to call me on my phone. I will be happy to answer any queries you have even after this point. One more thing I wanted to show you, and then we go into a little bit of a more interactive session so that you don't get too bored, okay? So we wake up a little bit. Before that, I show you one last thing. So within economies and consumers, these pillars are very important for you to understand country information and consumers information. Until now, so let me just collapse. Until now, all that I showed you is industries. So within industries, you have different industries, right? I show you, for example, the drinks. You have hot drinks, and this is the data I show you. What I show you, you can look at it in all industries. But on top of industries, you have access to many valuable data points, which are economies and consumers, for example, and channels. So these are the industries you can look at. You can do your own research after this training. You already know very well how to do it. But if we look at economies, I just skimmed through economies. I think you should take advantage of this data. You have business dynamics. So for each country, for example, if I'm advising Thai SME to export tea in Germany, and I want to know in Germany or in any other country that I select, how is the economic situation? How is the level of crime, corruption? Because maybe the company wants to set up a new branch in Germany, or access to finance. They also want to know what is the employment like. All this information is included. Another one that is included is trade. So how much exports of tea are being made to Germany from each of the countries? And for example, if I'm competing with neighboring countries like production, like producers of tea, like Sri Lanka, for example. I want to see how much they export to Germany compared to Thailand. I can see that all of it. I can look at it into foreign trade, and then I look at exports, and then export by commodity, for example, or export by destination. And so all this macroeconomic data, trade data, is also present in Passport. So please do take advantage of this. And one more important piece of information is consumers. So I want to also understand, in order to advise properly a company, I want to understand how are consumers in that target country. For example, let's use the same example in Germany. How are families structured? What's the average household size? How many households are there by number of persons? So how many households have only one person? How many households have only two people? How many households have three people, etc.? I want to know the age of the head of households. I want to know the number of children. I want to know whether they live in cities or they live in rural. In what type of sizes, in what type of houses do they live? What type of living conditions they have, etc. I also want to know how much they earn. If I want to promote a specific tea from Thailand that is very, very premium, I want to position it as very premium. Okay, what's the percentage of population that I can target? So I have information here in under income and expenditure, under consumers. We know consumer expenditure by category. So how much consumers spend in that country on each category. Each category, if I expand it, is food and non-alcoholic beverages, and I can deep dive into it. Non-alcoholic beverages, which is our case. In this case is like coffee, tea, and cocoa. How much exactly do they spend compared to other countries? So you can compare different countries and see, okay, then in Germany they spend on coffee more than they spend in many other Western Europe countries. So maybe it's good to keep Germany as high potential for the consumers population. But then we need to also look at other factors like what we saw earlier, market size. We want to look at distribution channels, etc., etc. So I suggest you to look at this consumer expenditure, also consumer expenditure as percentage of GDP. Another thing you want to look at is disposable income. So how much disposable income do they have? Disposable income is basically whatever you have left of your money after you have paid your bills. So how much money do you have ready to spend after you have paid your monthly bills? So this is the disposable income, what you can do with it. And then we want to know how many households have income above a certain threshold. For example, I want to look at how many households as percentage of total have income above, in Germany, above 55,000 USD a year. Oh, you're welcome. Sorry, I think there is a... You can still see my screen, right? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so if you want to see how many households have an income above 55,000 USD a year, then you can look at it, or how many over 65,000, etc. All this information is there for you. You have access to it. Or what is the median disposable income per household for different household types? What is their median disposable income, and so on. And also you want to have information about the population, how many males, females, depending on what kind of positioning the company is going for, you can advise accordingly, depending on all the consumer information. And then finally, channels. You want to look at digital consumers, so how many, how much purchases do they make through online channels? What's the attitude towards online channels? You see inside here, how much do they buy through e-commerce, etc. And then also you have information about retail. For example, within retail e-commerce, you want to see which are the products that are sold the most through e-commerce, or the types of e-commerce retail. And you can look at it very deeply. This is all part of, so do they buy retail through marketplace retail, for example, Lazada or Shopee, or do they buy retail from a direct retailer website? For example, it's a tea owner brand, and then they have a website where they sell their tea, or maybe they sell it through Amazon, and then people buy through Amazon. You want to know all this information? It's all here. It's available to you. You have access to it. So this is the last thing I wanted to show you regarding this training. Now I can open the questions, the floor for questions one more time, and then we can go into the next step after that. I will stop sharing so I can see you and take your questions. Yes, I see a question here from Prapasiri. In which file formats can we export the table? So table is going to be in Excel. Is it possible to export the graphic from dashboard in such a way the user can make changes? Graphics from dashboards, no, they can only be exported in PDF, or you can take a screenshot. So in that case, no. But what our analysts do is we take screenshot or we export in PDF, and then we put on PowerPoint, and on PowerPoint we pinpoint specific countries and we give some information for specific countries. So you can use that. If you need any help with that, you're preparing a presentation and you want to know how you can organize data in this case, you can let me know. I can help you on that as well.
Excuse me, I have a few questions. How can I make sure that the data that I'm using is the latest information? For example, like in Thailand, like I want to know the GDP of the provinces in each provinces, but the latest information is only maybe 2012. How can I make sure that the data that I'm using is updated in a very recent days, like for a few months ago, or maybe just within the 2024?
Thank you for the question. Let me share the screen again. I can show you. So in the beginning, I showed one thing, which is update schedule. I'm answering this question into two parts. One is update schedule. So if you want to know exactly whether you're looking at the most updated data, generally by default, when you click on something, we will give you up to the latest update. But for example, if we look at, you were looking at information such as GDP, right? So economy, finance and trade, the whole part of macroeconomic data has been updated in January 2024, so 5 months ago. The next update will be released in January 2025. So this is how you find which are the most updated. One more way is this. If you click on economies, for example, and if you click on this menu here, you click on economies, and then you want to know, for example, cities or regions in Thailand. Then I click on cities. It will bring me to something here. But if you scroll down, there are latest reports. So you can click on view all reports, and then you can filter through the latest updated to be on top. And I'm going to show you about that. And you can also filter by country. So you can see information also for Thailand specifically. So you see here, there's written refine your search. You can click on geographies. For example, I want Thailand, and then I click Thailand. And then I will also want sort by dates. So I only want reports that have been published the last year, or I want to sort all reports even in the past, but by date. So the most updated are on top. And then you have here, for example, Thailand cities review. There is a cities report of Thailand with economic information. It comes up on top. It's 20 October. The next update will be October 2024, so this year. Then you can scroll down and see other other latest updated information all the way. If you go down all the way to, for example, 2018 for Thailand, sizing the high income households of Asia Pacific in 2030. So that was a forecast document we published up to 2030 that was done in 2018, for example. So yes, this is the way you can play with the filters. These are all analysis, means reports. While instead for statistics, remember there was the drop-down menu from, you can go historical all the way back to 2009, and you can go forward all the way to 2028. Does this answer your question? Yes. Feel free to ask me follow-up question if you need.
And do you have the city level data?
There is city level data in our passport database. I think your subscription doesn't have access, but I can show you what it is. I can show you the information just for you to see what it's like. So if I click on here, I go into cities and I click on go. So far what we heard is like the production side and also cities is two maybe important things, but they are not part of the subscription. But for example, under cities, you can look at population size, households, like all the economic factors that we saw earlier. You can look by city. And then if I look for Thailand, yeah, sorry. If I look, I don't know, for something here like population, households, disposable income, I take 3 randomly. It doesn't matter. This is just for the example. And then when I look for Thailand, I can choose which city/region. So I expand Asia Pacific. So I go all the way down to Thailand, and I will have selection to make. Bangkok, Buriram, Chiang Mai, Pattaya, Hat Thai, etc. So I can choose Phuket, I don't know. I can choose any. And then this information that I have selected, which was household, income, etc., you can see for those specific cities. Yeah.
But for the city level data, it's just only the economic data, that's all.
Economic data, yes.
Oh.
Economic and consumer data, like income, expenditure, yes. But not industry data.
Oh.
Industry data is a country level.
Mm-hmm.
So how much sales of tea is at a country level, not for each city. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Please feel free to ask me more questions, okay? Good. If there are no more questions for now, of course you can, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second because I want to stop the recording. No, sorry, there's one more question. I'm so sorry. In which, no. Is information on consumer data also a panel data? Does Passport also provide a source where the data and analysis are obtained, for example, from surveys? Yes. Yes, that's a very good question. And the answer is yes, we do have panel data. And I'm going to show you that. To make a distinguo, like a clarification, economic data for consumers, it's not panel data. So we don't ask consumers, how much did you earn, how much did you spend, etc. The reason why for that is that it's difficult for them to remember. So we don't think it's reliable. So information such as income, population, household, expenditure, and all of this, we calculated based on the macroeconomic data of the country. For example, we know there are this many people. We know through government sources that there are different income bands, income tiers, and we know that these are the expenditure made for these specific products that are luxury, so they are higher income tier, etc. So we cross-check all this data to derive city level data, of course. We do run surveys, though, for consumers to understand their attitude. So we don't tend to ask to consumers specific sales information, like, for example, how much did you spend on food last month? We don't ask these questions, but we ask questions like, what do you look for in a restaurant? What kind of things please you. So these are attitudinal questions, and we do have them, and you have access to it. So how do you access it? You go into consumers, and then you click on lifestyles, and then inside lifestyles, you will have a survey. So you can click on the lifestyle survey, you click on go, and then you have a few questions. And to answer the other part of the question, there is the sample size indicated. Let me show you. In each country, you see here, for example, in this case, the topic is, the default topic that it shows me here is dietary restriction. And it shows me the lifestyle survey, how many respondents were there in 2015, 16,000, 2016, 28,000, 2017, 28,000, 2019, 40,000, 2020, 41,000, etc., etc. So 2024 is 40,000. I can change topic. It doesn't have to be dietary restrictions. It can be eating habits. If it's not eating and drinking, I can have healthy living. What's the behavior in terms of activities? Do they do green activities? Do they do political and social issues activities? What habits do they have? Do they exercise? We ask all these questions. House and home. Do they have access to a car? What type of car? Do they own pets? What do they do for leisure, to relax? All this information we have, and you can select it, okay? But you just click on something like exercise routine, and then you click on apply. And you see here the survey samples. There is 2015 all the way to 2024. So we have been running these surveys for almost 10 years. And you can compare countries, but you can also do a comparison by age group, by gender, or you can decide a custom comparison. You decide what. You decide what to check. You want to compare by income. You want to compare by parental status. You want to compare by education level. It's up to you. So you can play around with this data. It's a very, very thorough survey. And you have, under each country, how many people have been interviewed in that, have been surveyed in the countries. For example, you see Argentina, you have, for Argentina, you have 1,024 in 2024. And then in 2023, in 2023, then you have 1,048, 2022 is 1,017, etc., for each of the countries. So you have all this information here. Let me see if there is any follow-up question. Yes, does Passport provide details on the credibility and reliability of data and analysis? Yes. So something you may want to look at is when you click on help, it will bring you to a part that has the tutorials. You remember I showed you this. But if you look on top, there's written our methodologies, our definitions, our FAQ. You can look at this inside. You can click, and it will explain which methodologies do we use, why you should trust our data, etc., etc. And also, what are our definitions? How do we define information? How do we define the categories? And so on. So for each specific category, we define specifically what each category means. So there's a massive amount of work behind categorizing everything very, very clearly, because a big part of our analyst job is to make sure that the data is cross-comparable across countries. So I want to make sure that if I select Thailand, Indonesia, Germany, UK, I can compare the data. I compare apple for apple, because the same data is categorized in the same way in each country. That's why we are very, very strict in defining very clearly what each category means. So this is part of definitions. Then for methodology, why you should trust our data, you can click here. So you go into help and then methodologies. Let me see if there are more questions on this. Okay, looks like all the questions are done. So what I'm going to do is, but by the way, like I said, feel free to ask me more questions via email. It's okay. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to also stop recording. But don't leave yet, because I have a quiz.